Hello and welcome to another episode of the First Division podcast. It's your boy Steve, your host, back again with another episode. Uh, so today it's announcing that tomorrow we're gonna have in studio or another remote interview. Again, talking about the things that you want to hear. We're gonna have scintillating conversation about hot topics that are happening all around the world. Uh, But for tonight, I just wanted to make a quick announcement that the EPL is back in action this weekend with some hot fixtures. Some big matches coming up. Let's have a look at some of the matches that are maybe pique your interest. We got tomorrow, Saturday, the 26th of September. We have could be an interesting, excuse me, a couple of interesting matches. I don't know. It could be a Manchester United Brighton derby away to Brighton. I think that's going to be interesting. How Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to line up his team. Manchester United has been struggling as of late. Um, they lost 3-1. Who did they lose to? They lost to Crystal Palace the last weekend at home at Old Trafford. So to if they can go, they need some points. They need to pick up some points so they can go up the table. Who else have we got? We've got another kind of interesting match. Ooh, Crystal Palace coming off a big win against Manchester United last week, and Everton coming off 2 wins. So that's going to be a good matchup. That's going to be a big matchup to see who's going to prevail on that one. Who comes up on top? Everton is currently, I think, they're second in the table because of the amount of goals they scored. They're 1 goal behind Leicester City. Another scintillating matchup at 3 o'clock. I guess that's a tea time kickoff. Tottenham versus Newcastle. Tottenham at home. Tottenham just came off a 3-1 win in the Europa League Liga on Thursday. It's going to be a good matchup for them as well. Um, Then on Sunday, some interesting matches are going to be Manchester City versus Leicester City. That'll be a big matchup coming up. And then to round off the weekend at 9 o'clock kickoff time on Sunday, Liverpool versus Arsenal at Anfield. It will be a big matchup. Um, I was just curious about what kind of thoughts you have on the recent fixtures coming up. Um, and how how you feel that the EPL is kicking off when there's no fans in the stadium. I would really like to get your uh, you know perspective on. For me, when I hear that there's when I watch the EPL on the telly, um, what I hear when I hear that like kind of that fake crowd singing, I think that makes it a little bit more enjoyable because when you're watching it without a crowd and there's no background music, I mean, or background cheering, the match is actually kind of boring. The matches are kind of boring. It doesn't seem like the biggest superstars in football history. The matches are actually pretty boring, and they feel kind of uh, and it's really eerie and silent. And I feel like you don't get that same excitement when the goals get scored. When you hear from the crowd like you know 20,000 fans or 60,000 fans, depending on after at home, or when you hear like 30,000 fans cheering when their team scores a goal or team gets scored against, you really feel the excitement from the game, and it's really for example, I was watching it was a EFL match between Leicester City and Arsenal on Wednesday. I saw the highlights on YouTube, and Eddie Nketiah, he scored a brilliant PK, but when I saw the PK go in, I was like, "Whoa!" It wasn't that very much excited. But when you have fans screaming the player's name, fans singing, fans cheering and yelling, then a goal like a PK is really exciting. So I feel like I feel like right now during this time, sports have really lost kind of their fun factor, their excitement factor, especially for like matches where, like for example, tennis. Tennis is really a silent match where the fans have to be silent when the players are playing, and to have no fans there, to not even pump you up, cheer you on, get on your back, encourage you throughout the match to win the match. It's only you and the other player, and nobody else is cheering for the things that you've done on the court and things like that. I think it must be very kind of depressing mentally for the players. It must be hard to focus. I mean, because I think a lot of players are, depending on any sport, they kind of feed off the crowd's kind of excitement level. They can feel the energy from the crowd, either that they're happy, they're sad, they're depressed, they're moaning and groaning. I feel like they can feed off that, and they can adapt their game to how the crowd is reacting to their play. I think the crowd, my opinion is that the crowd plays a big role in sports for any team. I mean, how exciting. I mean, if you're watching the NBA finals or NBA games and you're hearing the crowd in the background cheering on your team, and the game gets really exciting, especially when it comes to like the fourth quarter end of the end game strategies and end game plays. I mean, and all the different kind of tactics that go along to kind of close games out. I mean, it gets really exciting, especially when the crowd gets into the match. And it's the same, like like if you're watching hockey, especially when your team goes deep in the playoffs. Uh, it's really exciting. The atmosphere is almost, it's electrifying. Especially if you're there live and you're watching your team play. Uh, there's no other feeling like it when you're part of the crowd cheering on your team. So I can only imagine what the players are going through if they hear that and they respond to that. Then they can alternate their game and get lifted, or and elevate their games to maybe close out the match, win the match, or at least put them in a position to at least give them a chance to win the match. And when you take that away, especially like the English Premier League, if you take the crowd factor away, I feel like the especially when you're playing in empty stadiums, I feel like the the stadiums or the clubs are losing a lot of money, a lot of revenue from like beer sales, ticket sales, merchandise sales, especially when teams don't have a chance to attract fans or attract the ticket holders and season ticket holders to into the stadiums. That's a good question. That's a big question that I have. A question I have for the uh, for the clubs is how are they going to reimburse uh, season ticket holders? How are they going to get them back into the stadium? I think, well, maybe I believe that if they have it already prepaid, then it doesn't matter if they're really in the stadiums or not. But I think it's a big question. I mean, how I wonder how the season ticket holders are kind of responding to this COVID virus. I mean, if they're not allowed to be in the stadiums, I mean, then are their season tickets valid, or are they going to get a refund for their season tickets? Uh, there's a big question that the clubs have to ask. I think that they're losing a lot of revenue from not being able to get the fans in the stadiums and in the seats to spend money, but I think they're playing matches for the TV, but I don't know if the TV is providing enough money for them to survive, during this difficult time period. We'll see how it goes forward, and uh, what kind of decisions the board will make, especially for these higher end clubs, and see if they will try to generate funds so that they can just function and pay the salaries. A lot of the times what happens is the club when they sign players knowing, when they make the budgets and they go through the accounts, that they're going to know that, okay, if we spend this amount of money, we need to make a certain amount of revenue on merchandise, ticket sales, beer sales, food sales, and so on, so that they're able to pay the salaries of the players. um, when you take a big chunk of revenue out of the equation, then player salaries are either going to get cut, or the club is not going to be able to uh, guarantee payment per month, and that usually happens. There's always these stories where players complain about not getting wages for months on end because the club doesn't have enough revenue to pay for them, and that comes from the ticket sales, and season ticket sales and corporate sales and different events and box sales and things like that. So we'll see. I'm sure like the bigger clubs like the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, Manchester Uniteds, now Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool, I think they'll make enough sales based on international merchandise sales and things like that. They get a percentage of it. And I think they'll be fine in the end. And, usually these clubs, they do well in the big competitions. And the further you go in different types of tournaments in Europe, you get more, not only get more TV money, but you also get prize money as well when you start winning some of these tournaments. So I think that if clubs push towards to be more competitive, uh, they will be able to and progress in these tournaments and win more money. I think you'll see a lot more, or I hope you'll see a lot more fight in clubs to be more competitive throughout the season. But you never know. You'll uh, and sometimes you'll find out that some of these clubs will just capitulate. They don't have enough funds and they will cease to exist, or they will uh, either take loans or go for that bankruptcy, or it's gonna be interesting, throughout the season. And I'm really, really wondering what's gonna happen in January when, for example, the transfer windows, or is there gonna be a transfer window? I think in January, that because if the season is kind of delayed, maybe the transfer window will be delayed as well. But I wonder how the clubs are going to be able to transfer, sell, and buy players' contracts in the upcoming transfer window. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to cope with things like that. There's a lot of unanswered questions that are you know how clubs are going to survive throughout this pandemic. Uh, I think it'll be very difficult. I think some clubs will survive, some clubs will struggle, especially in the lower leagues and not so famous leagues. And uh, unless they can find a way to uh, get fans into the stadium, I mean, if you have zero fans, I mean, there used to be up to 2,000 fans that you were able to have in the stadium. And if you have zero, then I mean, is it really worth to turn on the lights, open up the whole stadium just for the players to play? I mean, they're losing revenue, a lot of revenue. Uh, this first, these last 6 months that have been, uh, shut down and reopened, and those are just facts. So we'll see. So we're having a So today we're having a just a introduction of what's going to happen coming up on the podcast tomorrow, Saturday, uh, 26th of September. We're going to be talking about all types of things. We're going to talk about the new the new idea in the U.S. about they're going to introduce something called the Fed coin. I believe it's something called the Fed coin. It's a new cryptocurrency where the main idea is what they're gonna implement is they're gonna have it linked to your bank account. It's gonna be this equivalent to a U.S. dollar, uh, and it's going to be the same value. And uh, I think that I have a guest coming in. Interesting guest. He knows he trades in precious metals. He trades, or he used to trade in coins. And we're going to be talking about numismatics. We're going to be talking about currency, Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the news currently, and we have a big show for you tomorrow coming up on the podcast, and so so please tune in. Don't forget to tune in, and we look forward to having a good discussion tomorrow. And it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna talk about a wide range of subjects. And before we end the podcast for today, this was just a brief podcast. I wish everybody to stay safe, be healthy, enjoy some soccer matches if you're into that. Enjoy the sports. Take care of your mental health. Get some exercise. Um, being locked up in home, this is a great time to be creative. Let your creative side out. Create something. Create a podcast. Talk. Have discussions. Draw. Find something you love and go with it. It's the best time, especially for those who are stuck at home or stuck in quarantine. It's a great time to let your creative side out and not just be stuck at home doing nothing. Read books, read the news, stay on top of things, and and we'll get through this together. I mean, it's a really, really crazy time. uh, and tomorrow on the podcast we'll be covering that. We want to get out new podcasts every single day. uh, Before I close out the podcast today, there's a video. I want to shout out a video to. I was just introduced to this man, watching some of his videos, and he was talking about Hollywood hypocrisy. His channel is called common. He's a common sense conservative. His name is Bryan Anthony Bryan Logan. Good dude. Check him out. Um, Listen to what he has to say if you're into it. Take it in. Watch him. He just had a 3-hour live stream, and he has a logical approach to politics and to anything happening in the news. And he just breaks it down step by step, what's going on, especially in the US, and why things are happening the way they are, logically sound. He has a great attitude, like his videos. So shout out to him. I want to, whether he listens to my podcast or not, probably not. He'll probably never see or listen to this podcast. But I want to say thank you to him for doing what he's doing. I hope he keeps doing what he's doing. His videos offer a different perspective. And so on that note, I'd like to close the podcast, wrap it up, and we'll see you in the next podcast coming up tomorrow. All right. See you in the next one. Peace.